Well, we simply cannot think of a better place to be on a steamy, hot Saturday afternoon in the southeast corner of Michigan. It's the Belfor Training Center, a hockey rink on a steamy, hot day. This is a great place to be for a lot of reasons. Of course, also a glimpse of the future of the Detroit Red Wings as they wrap up development camp with the red and white game here this morning and this afternoon. Hi everybody, Bob Kaser, the radio voice of the Grand Rapids Griffins. Alongside me needs no introduction, neither of these guys do. Darren Eliot, Art Regner. And we start with the glimpse of the future of the Detroit Red Wings, Darren, and the fact is, the Red Wings are in a mode they haven't been in maybe ever, a rebuild mode right now.
Rebuild, retool. I prefer to call it the replenishment of resources phase of the organization. They started last year, continued this year with the draft, got a lot of real blue chip prospects now in the organization. That's what's going to make this team get back to playoff form.
And a very good draft. Ken Holland and company building for the draft, some deals that have certainly, at least early on, look like they're going to pay off. We take a peek at the draft in Dallas. You guys know all about from top to bottom what they got. Some big surprises certainly in the first round and early in the second round as well.
Well, certainly. If you look at it, I mean, Filip Zadina falling to number 6 is absolutely amazing. But perhaps the biggest surprise, I think, to the Red Wings was Joe Veleno being around in the first round with the 30th pick. Because as we've talked about the last couple of days, Jonathan Berggren, if Veleno wasn't there, they would have picked him. So essentially, and then McIsaac, you throw him into the mix, you could legitimately say their first 4 picks are legitimate first rounders or were projected to be first rounders. So I think as in the past where the Red Wings really did have to overripe some of their prospects, we won't use that term again, I promise. There's a lot of high-end talent here, and they're being fast-tracked, I think. I mean, there are guys here that are going to make this club, if not this season, certainly next season.
Quick reminder, you can follow us during this telecast at hashtag DRWDC. That's Detroit Red Wings Development Camp. You can send in pictures, join some chats, add some comments, etc. Darren, your thoughts too. I mentioned Ken Holland making some pretty savvy deals. It was trades that netted them Veleno and also the early pick in round number 2 as well.
Well, part of it, you have to have some good fortune. Serendipity intervened this year, which was great to get you a guy like Veleno at 30, McIsaac at 34 and 36. So those are things, and then Zadina at 6. But you had to do the work, and you had to put in all the time to make sure that you had your draft board situated properly, and they've done that, and they have blue chip prospects. Michael Rasmussen from a year ago, don't be surprised if he doesn't start this season with the Detroit Red Wings. So there'll be some fast tracking, but there'll be no rushing, guaranteed. That's Ken Holland to a T.
We're inside the Belfor Training Center here attached to Little Caesars Arena. Of course, Little Caesars Arena now a world-class facility. In fact, it might be the greatest arena in all of sports. I mean, it's just an incredible venue, and hence you bring the development camp here to Detroit. Of course, it is for the first time after having been in Traverse City for a number of years, Art.
Well, certainly. I think that you could tell from the fellas that were there last year up in Traverse City, Michael Rasmussen, Cole Frazier, Jack Adams. The list goes on because
Kolaski.
Yes, there were 11 guys there last year for the first time for the Red Wings draft. Traverse City's a great venue. They all talked about golfing and fishing and doing that. Here in Detroit, well, let's be honest, you can get in a little more trouble here in Detroit. It's a big city. So I think the fellas are enjoying big city life. I mean, for some of them, many of them did not grow up in a huge urban environment like I did here in the greater Detroit area. So I think it's an adjustment, but I think that really they see like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow here because they know that eventually this is great ice, the Belfor Training Center, but it's the big sheet that they want to get on, and they can see that and just how impressive Little Caesars Arena itself is, and to be there and all the red, I think it has a great psychological effect on these guys. You're in Traverse City, you have 2 sheets of ice, as I said, great city, love being there, but here, this is real. This is what it's all about. This is the National Hockey League.
Art Regner from the Red and White Authority, Darren Eliot, among other things, Fox Sports Detroit, of course, director of Little Caesars Amateur Hockey. Let's take a peek. You guys have been watching all week long.
Yep.
You get all the in-depth insights on who we'll get a chance to see here today. And here's the roster starting with Team Howe.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to seeing that top line of Rasmussen, Smith, and Zadina. I'm not trying to, overplay it and get melodramatic here, but that could be a legitimate line in Detroit someday and very, very soon. So that's what I'm looking for, to see those three fellas, especially Rasmussen. I want to see him net front presence on the power play. He's extraordinary. His hand-eye coordination is above the charts. He's just a truly supreme talent.
On the D, McIsaac, obviously we're going to take a look at him. I really like the kid Setkov, the Dane. He plays on a weaker team internationally, but he always stands out because he's always on the ice. He's had a good camp, and I'm really wanting to see him with his peer group in this game environment.
And a big body, Setkov, too. Amazing the number of smallish defensemen now being drafted in the National Hockey League, guys that have a chance to play in the NHL at under 6 foot. Of course, the opposite now true with goaltenders, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But here's a look at the Team Lindsay lineup for today, and of course, I guess highlighted by Joe Veleno, that aforementioned second first-round pick for the Red Wings.
Well, Veleno has looked the part in terms of being a skilled guy. His skating has been world class. It is world class, so it'll be fun to watch him, to see Chalowski get him the puck on the back end. That'll be fun as well.
Well, certainly. And the top line for Team Lindsay, Veleno, Pope, who has a legitimate shot at making the Red Wings, has a great shot, and then Berggren, who they're very, very high on. But I like the D on Team Lindsay. I think with Chalowski, Regula, my good buddy Kasper Kotkaniemi, kid just, he has decided to put his disdain for Swedes aside, and because of his Finnish blood, he will play. He will be a team player today. He's assured me of that. But Kasper's a good guy. I think Cole Frazier, real tough customer, as we've talked about. Von Popelberg, very big, I think, a moment for him. He has to decide, as Darren and I talked, does he want to stay here in North America? The Red Wings offered him a contract. He declined it. He went back to Europe. This is a make or break moment, I think, for him.
You closer to Kotkaniemi than Rasmussen?
No, Rasmussen and I, people think I have a financial stake in his.
I sensed that this week.
Yes, Rasmussen obviously is somebody that I think is an extraordinary talent. I really do. I think the Red Wings were very fortunate, and I've told Michael this, that he had the wrist injury where in his draft year he didn't play half a season, fell to them at 9th. People were kind of questioning that. I think he's proven this season, when he came back from a second wrist surgery, that he's extraordinary. He's extraordinary, and the thing I like about him is that he's 18, 19 years old, but he has the maturity of a full-grown man. He's very, very serious, and I think he's the real deal. I expect him to definitely be in the Red Wings lineup on October 4th against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I think, I'm not telling Jeff Blashill what to do, although I have, and he's kindly escorted me out of his office.
Right? Don't stop now.
He's kindly escorting me out of his office, but I think you have to put Rasmussen at least second power play unit net front presence. He's that good. He's that gifted.
All right, we're going to have some fun today. We'll get you up to speed on all these young players. We're still learning. You're going to learn a ton here over the next couple hours. Compliments of Art Regner and Darren. Eliot, I'll chip in a little bit here and there as well. You can follow us also at DRWDC, hashtag DRWDC. That's Detroit Red Wings Development Camp. Send us some photos, add some comments, etc. All right, we'll take a break, come back for more. It is the final day of development camp, the game, Team Howe versus Team Lindsay. More coming your way from the Belfor Training Center in just a moment.
Beat the rush and see Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha, and the rest of the Red Wings battle the NHL's best. With Detroit Red Wings partial season ticket plans. Customize your 11 or 22 game package to best fit your schedule. Benefits include tickets at below box office prices, home opener seats guaranteed, and access to concert pre-sales. Log on to DetroitRedWings.com now and get in on all the action.
Well, the Columbus Blue Jackets will provide the opposition when the Detroit Red Wings kick off the 2018-19 campaign right here at Little Caesars Arena on Thursday, October the 4th. And let this new era of Red Wing hockey, I guess, officially begin. Darren, Eliot on that night. And full season ticket plans are available. There you see it. Call 313-471-7575 or visit DetroitRedWings.com/season tickets to be a part of what is going to be certainly a very exciting season, and one that I think optimism will still remain supreme, correct?
Certainly on opening night. That's the way it goes. Everybody loves opening night. There's a reason to come down to Little Caesars Arena just because it is opening night. This year, there might be a couple of young faces. Regner's already said that Michael Rasmussen is going to be in the lineup, so there's one. Will Philip Zadina make the opening night lineup, or will he take one of the many other options, which could be Grand Rapids, which could be the Czech Republic Men's League, leading into the World Juniors? All kinds of reasons to come down to Little Caesars Arena opening night, and this year, because there'll be some young players in the lineup, certainly.
Darren, I wanted to ask you, is all kidding aside here, is that Zadina, will he get the 9 games or not?
Doesn't need it.
He doesn't need them, right?
Because he's a European that plays junior, so he has the options to go to the American League, or so he can turn pro and go right to the American League, even though he has junior eligibility.
Even though he was drafted out of the Quebec League.
Correct. So that's different than some of the other junior players that are North American born.
And is it also possible, I heard rumblings about this yesterday, Darren, that he could, and I can't imagine this would happen, but he would be eligible to play in Grand Rapids if the Wings.
Correct.
And typically for kids drafted out of junior hockey, you guys can explain
That's
this better. You're an underage.
Because he has junior eligibility, but because he's European and went and played in junior, that's why he could be a turn pro and play in Grand Rapids right away.
And of course, most junior players drafted, if you're an underage, you got to go back to junior. That's to protect the interest of those particular teams, so they don't lose a ton of players to professional hockey. Now, you look at a guy like Michael Rasmussen, first-round pick. If he doesn't make the Red Wings, he has to go back to junior. And the argument is that good for his development? With all due respect to the Western Junior Hockey League, would he be better off to be in Grand Rapids? Certainly my answer to that question would be absolutely.
Well, I learned something from Michael Rasmussen. It's not the Tri-City Americans. You just say Tri.
Just say Tri.
Yeah.
So he has to go back to Tri. He'll be captain at Tri. I doubt that's going to happen. I truly do.
He's going to play certainly at least 9 games to start the season.
Right.
That's the 9-game award. If he plays a 10th, he has to stay on Detroit's roster, cannot be returned to junior. Grand Rapids isn't an option for Michael Rasmussen next season. Until the end of his junior season.
Right.
He just looked serious in his photograph up there. I mean, this guy is all business. I mean, he's grown. I asked him. He's not 6'6" anymore. I don't think. I think he's about 6'7", 6'7 and a half.
The thing about Michael Rasmussen that really benefited him after his surgery that you talked about, Art, was the fact that he proved that he can be a scorer and a prolific scorer in the playoffs, not just the playoffs when it matters most, on the wing. Because by and large, if, as you talk about, Art, he's going to be a Red Wing to start the season, it's going most likely to be as a winger to begin with, just like Dylan Larkin did. It's much easier integrate into the National Hockey League as a winger than a centerman because of the defensive responsibilities.
Right, he'll be, I think right now, penciled in, 3rd line, left wing. I think that's where Rasmussen will start.
You took that right off of Jeff Blashwell's whiteboard in his office. I know that.
I did take that off someone who was showing me what
you
they
actually
thought.
took a tip from him instead of giving him the tip?
No. I actually saw this.
Off your chalkboard in your basement.
I live for this. I don't have much
you do.
You know, so.
We all do.
But actually, Rasmussen certainly has a legitimate shot to make this hockey club. Another guy that's not here that, another young person that we should probably talk about on the blue line is Philip Hronek, that you've seen, Bob, in Grand Rapids. He's another young man, can run a power play, had a great rookie season in the AHL. So I do think Ken Holland's goal was to have 2 to 5 young players make this team this coming season, and I think at least 2 of them will.
And the philosophy within the Wings organization has to have changed pretty dramatically from past years, with the obvious, the fact that some guys are getting older, some guys are moving on, and the Wings have come right out and admitted we are now in a rebuild. So that's going to fast track guys to the Red Wings roster, certainly more so than even 2, 5, 7 years ago.
Part of it is economics. You have to have young players in the cap era that are contributing to your success at the National Hockey League level. So that fast tracks them economically, whether it's prudent or not. And these players are proving, and part of this development camp is showing, these kids are more ready than ever to play in the National Hockey League because of the training, coaching, all those kinds of things at the lower levels, the USHL, college levels, and major junior levels.
So if you guys are betting on this, do Zadina and Rasmussen make this roster and stick around the whole season?
Rasmussen for sure.
Yes, I
think he's a lock. Zadina's an interesting case.
More options.
Right.
More development options available to him.
Darren's absolutely right. And, you know, and he is a young man. We tend to forget we're talking about teenagers here. But I will say this. If because he has an NHL caliber shot right now, if he is scoring goals, they're going to keep him because they need to score goals. I think the Red Wings the last couple of seasons have averaged like 2.52 goals a game. That is not good.
You made that number up.
No, I did not. I actually know.
You looked that one up.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't.
Yeah, I sit around and I discovered a phone. My phone can Google. I can get things. No, but they need goal scoring. They really do.
Absolutely.
That's the number one priority in this
body.
organization. Right. They need big bodies, but they really need to increase their offense. And, you know, certainly when they were looking at the draft and they didn't think Zadina would fall their way, they were looking at it for an Evan Bouchard, somebody who could give it to him from the back end. But I think what was interesting, just quickly getting back to the draft, is that I think we saw certain teams draft the best player available in Detroit, whereas other teams drafted for need, and I think that's why Zadina fell to the Red Wings at number 6.
No doubt about it, and that's the age-old draft conundrum. Best available, organizational need, and thankfully for the Red Wings, they went with the best available player because other teams went with an organizational need.
And back to defense, you know, you mentioned Filip Hronek, and yes, I had the pleasure of watching him develop and
is he ready?
Quickly. I think he's ready. Without a doubt, I think he's ready. And that brings me to the question to you two guys. There's a lot of talk here in Detroit within Wings Nation and among the media. Dennis Cholowski seems to be the guy that's penciled in. We haven't seen a whole lot of him. I mean, he doesn't have much pro hockey experience behind him yet, and he's still developing. My thought is Hronek's that guy, might have an edge on Cholowski right now, but there's also talk of maybe both of them making the Wings out of camp.
I would think that Dennis Cholowski needs to start the year in Grand Rapids, just because I think he needs to get a little bit of AHL experience under his belt consistently, night in and night out. If there is another Griffin that I think on the blue line that could make the team, don't forget, because we have forgotten about him, but he's been forgotten his entire hockey career, and that's Joe Hicketts.
Joey Hicketts, yeah.
Joe Hicketts, it's an odd stat, and he led the Red Wings last year plus-minus at +5. So I don't know if that says so much about the Red Wings as much as Joe is a player, but here's a guy who can also run a power play, and the power play is essential to Detroit's success this year. They really need to increase their production on the power play. I think Hicketts is going to be given a legitimate shot too, Darren.
Well, I think, again, the business enters into it, and it always should. He's out of options. You have a chance to lose a player like Joe Hicketts because he has to, when I say he's out of options, he has to be exposed to waivers before he can go back to Grand Rapids. So Hronek, not so much, but I think you look at him, he's done the path and the trajectory that you had hoped for. So he gets a shot, to me, to have a good training camp, play the preseason, look at those games, and make the team. Look, you have to make the team, then you have to keep your spot. And that's never going to change, whether you call it a rebuild, a retool, or a replenishing of resources.
Amazing what a sophomore slump will do. I mean, and I use that term because of course, Dylan Larkin. Year 2 was a tough year. He bounced back in a big way. The sophomore slump I'm referring to is to two guys, both Joe Hicketts, who had a tough year last year, his second year, and Evgeny Svechnikov. I fully expect, having seen those guys play a lot of hockey, fully expect both of them to bounce back in a big way, and I wouldn't be surprised. Svechnikov's not being talked a lot about around here lately either. I wouldn't be surprised if he surprises a few folks as well.
They're hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens. Don't forget, when we talk about development, it's not a linear progression. It never is. There's turns and twists. You'd hope that everybody just, okay, you start here and you end here. Not the case, and you have to really carve out a niche for yourself at the NHL level, and it begins in the American Hockey League, which you know about. That's a fantastic league. It's a man's league, and you have to make those kinds of progressions along the way, and you hope those guys find their way this year.
And I don't know how you explain that. I mean, Joe Hicketts was so dynamic his first year. He's got that moxie. That's the word we apply to him. And Svechnikov was unbelievable, leading the Griffins to a Calder Cup in his rookie campaign, and he struggled last year. I don't know how you explain that, but again, both have so much skill, Art. I think you're going to see big seasons out of both of them, whether they're in Grand Rapids or split between GR and Detroit.
Well, again, they're young men, and they won the Calder Cup. They won a championship, and feeling good about themselves. Yep. It was a long season too. It's probably the most hockey they've ever played because of the playoff run. And then they come back, and I really think Hicketts is completely together. The kid's a pillar. The kid's a leader. I think players gravitate to him because he plays much larger than he is, as you very well know, Bob. I think Svechnikov has to do something. He called himself out last game when Grand Rapids was.
But he is always hard on himself, which is almost to a fault.
Right. He really was. I was surprised that he was that hard on himself when he met the media after Grand Rapids was eliminated in the playoffs last year. But I think he knows, perhaps maybe having his brother down in Carolina, who's going to be a star, maybe that'll, in its odd sense, take some pressure off him or add some pressure or sibling rivalry. He needs a spark. He needs something because the Red Wings expect a lot from him. He's a big body. He's talented. He can score, but he has to prove it beginning right now.
All right, we're just about ready to go here today. We'll pause and come back. We'll have the starting lineups, the face-off, and all the action of period one, and of course a lot more insights on the future of the Detroit Red Wings. That's what we're here for today, the development camp at the Belfor Training Center. More coming your way from downtown Detroit on a steamy, hot Saturday. And again, this is the place to be for two reasons. It's nice and cool inside, and we get a glimpse of the future of the Detroit Red Wings. More coming your way right after this.
Beat the rush and see Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha, and the rest of the Red Wings battle the NHL's best. With Detroit Red Wings partial season ticket plans. Customize your 11 or 22 game package to best fit your schedule. Benefits include tickets at below box office prices, home opener seats guaranteed, and access to concert pre-sales. Log on to DetroitRedWings.com now and get in on all the action.
I'm Carly Johnston for Red Wings TV, and on Friday, despite the weather, the Jimmy Howard Foundation hosted their inaugural Howie Home Run Derby right here at Legacy Center in Brighton. Fans and players alike came out to swing a bat for a good cause.
Well, the city's given me so much, and my family and I figured it was about time that we started to give back in a big way. Jimmy Howard Foundation is going to, benefit the Arthritis Foundation. I'm still going to work with them, but also with children's hospitals around the city.
What has been the best part about being here?
Seeing all the Red Wings players.
Did they sign your shirt?
Witkowski.
Witkowski, how fun!
Some of these younger kids that are out here seeing pro athletes that can't hit a baseball, it's got to be pretty funny for them. But it's great just to see us outside the rink and interact with us a little bit and see a different side of us.
So why a home run derby?
Because it brings me back to my childhood. Like me and my buddy were having a cookout last year, and we were, just throwing around ideas, and we came up with Howie's Home Run Derby, and it just sort of ran from there.
Do you like baseball?
Yes, I'm on a baseball team.
You're on a baseball team, so are you going to get out there and show these boys how it's done?
No.
No, why not?
I don't want to.
It was actually the first thing I put on my summer calendar, and I wouldn't miss it for him. It's a great event, supporting his new foundation, and he's such a good guy, such a good teammate. Just being here, supporting him, and raising some money for kids is awesome to be here.
Red Wings fans were able to mingle with Jimmy Howard and some of the other players, all while raising money for a great cause. To see how you can get involved, head over to jimmyhowardfoundation.org. For Red Wings TV, I'm Carly Johnston.
Not center.